on the bench and Minikin as his first choice for the wing spot.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can see with Widdop being on the bench is that he's perhaps going to be... I mean, look, Robbie could probably do 80 minutes, mate. I don't know, can he do 80 minutes anymore? Widdop's going to come on and they're going to spell him using Widdop and rotate things around, aren't they? So I think that's his thinking.
Well, that'd be a big swap to the team because I'd be expecting Widdop not to play hooker.
Well,
it's just another option, I think, if the halfbacks aren't working. And one thing England haven't been able to settle on is getting the halfbacks working consistently.
But you're not going to get them working consistently if you constantly chop and change either. At the same token, Greg Minikin on the wing for me has done well for Castleford this year, but there's a better Castleford winger out there.
One who scored more tries for certain, yeah.
And I don't know, is Minikin more of a centre in your book?
I think Minikin's best performances this year have been on the wing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. He might end up being a very good centre, but I think his best performances this year have been on the wing. But I still think he's a surprise call-up. I don't think he's anywhere near the England squad, personally.
Yeah. I think McGilvray, to a point, people pick McGilvray from time to time. And is it just on the strength of like his performance against New Zealand where he took them by surprise? And will he be a surprise anymore? Or is he good enough?
He's making more metres per game than anyone else in Super League this year. Now, anyone who's played a lot of games, he's scored enough tries, he played well enough against Samoa. I think is the man in possession of the jersey. I don't think he's done anything to deserve it being taken off him personally.
No, that's fine.
Personally.
No worries, I'm just highlighting things as we go. Okay, who's next?
Steve Morgan at Steve Rhino 1988. He's gone with Hardacre, McGilvray, Watkins, Percival, Hall, Widdop, Gale. So this is the first one of the actually what we have seen from everyone. But when you put it together, this is the backline that most people like the aggregate ends up with. Then it's Graham, Hodgson, Sam Burgess, Whitehead, Curry, and O'Loughlin. Then on the bench, Williams is his maybe wildcard selection, along with McMeekin, Tom Burgess, and Chris Hill.
See, this is the thing. No one's really mentioned Chris Hill up to this point, and he's had a good year. He's just done it in a shit team, but he still makes big numbers. He
does. He still tackles very consistently and plays very hard. It's just
he's just suffered from being in a dodgy outfit.
And I know he was injured early doors in this season, but he still, for me, plays too much at this stage to be that effective at that end of the season. I just think he's tailing off personally, but I still wouldn't say he's a bad shout.
Speaking of people who've been injured for a big portion of the season,
that was the more significant one that jumped out for me. Ben Curry is injured again, isn't he now? I don't know if he's going to get fit. He's an absolutely exceptional talent, that's without doubt.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he's going to be fit enough for this England side?
No, not now. Why take the risk? If he was coming back from the first injury, the one that saw him miss the majority of the season, and was picking up some match fitness and doing well in the middle eights, showing himself to be the quality player he is doing, then I think that is an arc that allows him to get into the England squad. But another injury now, why take the risk on someone who's going to be half crocked when you it's not, the pack isn't where our weaknesses are. We're not
it's not like we've not got tons of other options in that second row position of players who aren't worse than Ben Curry anyway.
Yeah. I'd rather see him size up a bit these days and put McMeekin in there, and I think that's what we might see.
Fair enough. And any comments on Williams off the bench? He might be able to slip more into a hooking role.
Yeah. He might well, and he'll offer a bit more.
Because he's played a grand final at hooker, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he offers a bit more he offers that je ne sais quoi. He's an X-factor player, isn't he, when he comes on? He can turn defence, he can unlock a line.
I feel like he's more game-changing opportunity than Widdop potentially as a flash one moment kind of thing. So we've got Mark at Wilco2205. He's gone with Hardacre again. Then McGilvray, Watkins, Percival, Eden on the wing. First shout for Eden on the wing other than your shout earlier. Widdop and Gale. Graham, Hodgson and Thomas Burgess starting with Whitehead and Liam Farrell. So the third time we've seen Farrell in one of these sides. Sam Burgess at hooker, and then his bench is Roby, Bateman, first mention for Bateman in this, Alex Walmsley, who's been a favourite of a few benches so far, and Scotty Taylor.
Yeah. Well, Walmsley and Taylor are fine on the bench. Bateman certainly needs to be in the England conversation, doesn't he? He's a phenomenal player. Roby off the bench. Yeah, I can. It's a standard decision, isn't it? And then there's nothing really that offends me in the 13, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. I think Eden, for all his try-scoring exploits, if you've got an edge of Percival in Eden, there's too many mistakes in that edge for me. It's just like having an edge of Percival and Burgess, or think there's too many mistakes waiting to happen in that. Although a lot of excitement too, potentially. I don't think our man Wayne Bennett will go with that risky there. David Powell at St David 2911, and this is possibly the first time we have any serious
controversy.
Yeah, so he's gone for not Zach Hardacre at fullback. He's gone for Johnny Lomax, who did play quite well for England last year. Fullback. McGilvery, Watkins, Percival Hall, so a bit more standard there, and Widdop and Gale. James Graham, Roby to start for him, Sam Burgess, then Whitehead, McMeekan and Sean O'Loughlin, with George Burgess, first mention for George Burgess, Walmsley, Farrell and Hodgson making up his bench.
Yeah, no, I had George Burgess on my bench as well. Look, Johnny Lomax does nothing wrong for me, but I just don't think he's as adept an international player as Zach Hardacre or Sam Tompkins would be. He's exciting, he's very, very talented, and I admire his work ethic and the effort he puts in. I don't see it. And I know he's in there because Dave's a Saints fan.
He's an excellent player. I don't have
tremendous.
It might not be St Helens full, but he might be standoff for St Helens rather than fullback for St Helens in a week's time. Yeah, so
quite possibly.
It's a questionable one for me. And George Burgess, I don't think he's shown the kind of form to be in the first 17. He's on the bubble for the squad for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think he gets in because it's Wayne Bennett and he likes a big lad who plays in Australia.
Yeah. Ryan Pinder at Pinder 1993 goes with Hardacre, McGilvery, Watkins, Percival Hall, Williams instead of Widdop and Gale. Then Graham, Hodgson, Walmsley to start for him, Whitehead and Bateman, so an old boys back row with Sam Burgess completing that trio.
Yeah, plenty to cheer about for me then.
McMeekan, Farrell, Widdop and Curry on his bench. So
well, Curry and Widdop are the choices that you need to draw your attention to. Curry we've already talked about with his injury. Widdop off the bench for me doesn't do the same as Williams off the bench. I'd switch those around.
I think his bench here is quite small as well. I know McMeekan's a big lad. But Farrell and Curry are not going to mix it well enough. I suppose what you might end up with is one of those guys, or Whitehead or Bateman in the back in the loose forward position for a period with Sam Burgess spelling. But if Alex Walmsley's starting the game for you, he ain't going to do you enough minutes to have such a small bench. No. So I don't mind his starting lineup. I'd be having a rethink of my bench if I was writing.
Yeah, get some more size on there. Langers then.
Rich Langley emailed in with a team: Hardacre, Eden, Percival, Gildart, Marshall.
Ooh.
Widdop, Williams, Taylor, Hodgson, Watts.
An whole front row or a whole old.
Well, Hodgson did come through. Yeah. McMeekan, he said Greg or Mike, which made me laugh.
Let's pick Mike.
And Bateman in the back row with Sam Burgess locking his scrum. And then Graham, Walmsley, Roby and Ratchford as the wild card.
Do you know what?
The bench.
The more and more I think about this, the less and less I think Ratchford is a wild card for that squad. I think Wayne Bennett likes the utility he brings.
Oh, I think he might be in the 24, but I don't think he's in the 17.
Perhaps not. Lots to unpack on this one then. Gildart at centre. Gildart's a phenomenal player. I wouldn't kick off about that if Gildart started at centre.
Over think
Percival?
Is an absolute. Well, he's got Percival in as his other centre. I think he's a bit. I think he's pushing it with that back line. Liam Marshall, we all know how good a try scorer he can be.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have Liam Marshall.
He ain't quite up to that level, no matter how many tries he scored this year.
Quality, though.
I agree he is. I just think there's people that should be in this at this point in his career ahead of him, and
we are talking about
that's the same for Percival.
Opening game of the World Cup in Melbourne against Aussies. So that's
putting someone in who's never faced that sort of level before. Now the guy has won grand finals, and he scored in cup finals, grand finals, and been a big factor in a World Club Challenge win as well. So he's played big games.
Yes, he's more than likely going to be playing for Italy in this World Cup, though.
I hope he does play for Italy, and I hope that gives him good grounding because he's going to be around for a while, and he's a lot more consistent a player than Percival, if not quite as flashy when Percival's at his absolute best.
No Gale in the halves though. Widdop and Williams. What do you think to that?
It's the first time we've not seen Gale, and I just can't see a picture of as much. It's 2 from the 3. I think everyone should be accepting that, even though Mark Snide made a very late case for it, and Kevin Brown obviously is the incumbent in many ways, but
behave.
Yeah. So yeah, I still think Gale is the leader in the clubhouse for me out of those 3, though.
For me as well. Yeah, definitely.
Watts, first mention for Watts. Watts has been outstanding this year. If he made the squad, I don't think Walmsley making the squad if Watts is making the squad. I think only one of those two is making the squad.
Watts is who's more of a penalty liability, Watts or Walmsley?
Watts, but Watts is able to do more minutes for you now. Yeah. Do you need a player who's going to do more minutes for you when you've got Graham, Burgess, potentially Hill?
Some big engines.
You're talking about them lot all can do an hour each.
Yeah.
And Taylor or Watts. I'd go with Taylor over Watts. I think Watts is more likely to cause a kick-off that'll see a problem for your squad going into the next time.
And I don't think you'll lose much by replacing Watts with Taylor.
As much as Watts has been great this year and really good in big games. He's certainly made himself worthy of being in the conversation, so I'm glad Rich has picked him.
Definitely.
Rich Wilkinson, another Rich, he got in touch on Facebook. He's gone with Hardacre, McGilvery, Watkins, Shenton,
old school,
and Hall, Widdop and Gale. Then he's gone for the most informed Burgess twin.
We've got Tom.
Yep, with Hodgson and Graham, Sam Burgess and Whitehead in the back row with Lockers loose forward, then Roby, McMeekan, Hill and the other Burgess twin, so George, off the bench. Very NRL heavy side, that's the first thing to notice there, which isn't a surprise to someone who will be able to see, sees all that, probably more than he sees all of the Super League, I would guess.
Yeah.
Being that he's based down under. I would applaud him for picking out Shenton. We'll find out why later on. The first mention of Burgess in the back row, you talked about a big back row. First mention of him in the second row positions. He actually, I think he played second row this week.
He goes anyway.
In a battering for Salves.
Yeah, well, the good thing with Sam Burgess is that you can,
put him in anywhere.
I wouldn't trust him at hooker necessarily, but anywhere else in the back, and he's fine.
Yeah, okay. Lee Randall got in touch with Hardacre, McGilvery, Shenton, Percival, Hall. So, first team, I think, other than Langer's wildcard backline that doesn't have Watkins in it. Gale and Snide at halfback.
No.
He sent this probably after being in the throes of the kicking game of the Cup final, I think. Taylor, Hodgson and Graham, Whitehead, McMeekan, Sam Burgess, then Roby, Hill, Walmsley and Tom Burgess.
I like that bench. I like that bench a lot. I don't like Snade enough to start a game against the others.
No, and I think Gale's got a good enough kicking game and Widdop's got a good enough kicking game. He doesn't elevate the kicking game sufficiently for me.
No.
If it was like, if we had to play...
And there's no second option. If we had to play
like Williams and Brown or something, and that was the option, or Williams and Ratchford, I think you would need...
Yeah.
You would say no, Snade over one of them, because you're elevating your kicking game. But
the problem with Lee's selection here is that there's no way of changing it up in the halves if this Snade-Gale thing just becomes a bit turgid and they're both a bit samey, and we kick for position, but we've got no spark, no fire on the back of it. So, for me, it needs someone like a Williams in there to do that.
I agree. I don't like his halfback combo, but the rest of the team is all right. Paul O'Brien, he's gone Hardacre, McGilvery, Percival, Watkins, Hall, Williams and Gale, Graham, Whitehead at hooker and Burgess, Walmsley and Farrell and O'Loughlin with Taylor, Widdop, Roby and Hill on the bench. So 2 ball players on the bench. If you say a hooker's a ball player too, but interesting way to start the match without a hooker.
No, just going and getting at him. I think that's his theory, isn't it?
I guess I can only guess that.
Go over the top and we Walmsley in the second row.
Walmsley in the second row. It'll be gassed after 5 minutes.
Get amongst them. That's what.
Interesting, I'd say.
That's what Widdop's there for. Widdop comes on and plays a bit of hooker, I guess. Williams plays a bit of hooker.
Roby's
comes on, and Roby's like, Jesus Christ, you can't move for hookers on the bench, can you? Or people who can play it. So I think he's.
I've never seen Gareth Widdop play in the hooker position.
He'll have a go. I think they're all getting a go, aren't they? Williams and Roby would do the heavy lifting on that when Whitehead drops back into the second row to replace a gassed Alex Walmsley, I suppose. Yeah. But I wonder if Paul's theory is get over the top of them early doors and just shock and awe them.
Yeah, well, John Scott has got in touch with a team that has a common thread in it. You'll see soon. Hardacre, McGilvery, Watkins, Percival, Makinson, Williams and Gale, Walmsley, Houghton and Watts, Bateman, McMeekan and Westerman at loose forward, with Taylor, Clark, Amor and Hill on the bench. Although John has said he expects Bennett to pack the team with NRL-based players.
See, I'm starting to think he won't.
Well, John's not picked any NRL players in his team.
I think he'll pick English NRL players, but I'm starting to think that the whole Chris McQueen, fucking Morris experiment is done now. Heighington's not going to make the squad, I don't think. I think he might be done with that idea.
I would be if I was him. I'm not convinced he'll be totally done with it, but I certainly don't think he's going to go with this
No, he's not going with all
NRL